I had a professor, Dr. George, Church History 1 and 2. He did his PhD in Scotland, and he, with his dad, was a part of this, like, they went to a monastery and just were with monks for like an extended period of time, just like kind of lived life with them.
That's so cool.
And the first night they go to eat dinner, he tries to have a conversation, like tries to talk, and his dad is like shaking his head. And then he's like super confused. And so he thought, I don't know, maybe something was wrong or like whatever. He learned later on they don't talk during dinner because they just let there be silence, especially during a time of like eating. Like nobody talks because they just like have his time to breathe and just sit in silence. Our culture hates silence.
Right.
Can't do it. Doesn't know how to function, thinks it's awkward. Like he said, cringe. Yeah. Like
I love that. Like that's so good. We started implementing through this past Christmas break, like an hour of silence, or not silence necessarily, but just quiet time in our house. Because our two oldest kids are past nap time. So they're not going to nap. But we're like, hey, for an hour while your sister's asleep, we're going to, like, no screens, no technology. We're not going to run around, be crazy. We're not going to play with toy, whatever. Like, we're just going to sit and be silent. We're going to read books. They got like Tonys for Christmas, so they can like put those in and listen to stories and books. And so that's cool.
Wow, it was the year for Tony.
Tonys killed it. I didn't even know what they were until we got. And Haley tried to explain it beforehand. Like, well, they did something. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then I got him. I was like, I almost understand what those are. Anyway, but it's like, and we, like, Haley and I model that too, right? Like, we put away our like computers, tablets, phones, whatever, just read a book, or like we're not watching shows. We're not, just like to have a little bit of silence, a little bit of, like, our culture has this thing that's a big pet peeve of mine called found time, right? It's all about found time. If we're sitting in the car, we could be doing something else while we're driving, right?
Optimize efficiency.
Yes. We could be listening to podcasts. We could be listening to audiobooks while we're driving, while we're doing dishes. And that's good. Like, that's fine. I do that too. I listen to audiobooks while I do dishes, and that's a great time for me, or podcasts. That's a great time for me to, like, get
especially this one.
While I'm,
That's right. Shameless plug.
Ding. Yeah, but I think that there is value in, like, hey, you know what? What if when you drove from, like, in your morning commute, turn the radio off, turn the podcast off, turn whatever off, just sit in silence on the whole way and see like what happens when you have a little bit of that space. We were talking about Spotify the other day in our text group.
Talking about is really.
Preston, like, didn't have his phone, and he came back to just novels of Steven and I.
Listen, I saw yours and I want to respond. I don't have time to respond. Right. Anyway, keep going.
I know. Well, anyway, like, is basically competition between Spotify and Apple and all of that. But I saw this a few weeks ago. The CEO of Spotify, I think it's the CEO, somebody important at Spotify, said their greatest competition isn't Apple, isn't YouTube, isn't whatever. Their greatest competition is silence. So if they can win the war against silence,
you see those Spotify Wrapped, people have listened to like months worth of music, right? And just
that's exactly
content,
and that's their goal. So their target on the wall isn't we want to have more streams than Apple, more streams than YouTube, more streams than Amazon. We want to beat silence and eliminate silence, and that's like such a good picture of like modern Western culture. We are so averse to just existing and having space and margin in our life. We don't know what to do with it, to the point now that, like, we're uncomfortable by it, and we wonder why, like, people aren't coming to church consistently. They can't sit in a service. The amount of times that, like, people come in and out of our doors during worship service at our church is absolutely insane. The door rattles off its hinges every week. I'm like, we got to put felt pads on that or something, because it's just the whole time, the whole time. And we can't do it. We can't sit still. We can't engage. We can't have space. We don't know what to do with our hands.